Is Deebo Samuel a top 5 dynasty wide receiver? We're going to dive into that and so much more on today's episode of the Mailbag Show. And Victoria, I want to start with you. When I first heard this question, I kind of laughed at it. But then once I started kind of ranking them all out, I think it's a pretty good conversation to have. So let's start with this question from Jordan Rains. Is Deebo Samuel a top 5 dynasty wide receiver? What do you think?
Oh, I could argue top 10, top 12. I'm not sure I can argue top 5, and this is why. When you think of guys like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, I'd have that in my first tier. Then I've got guys like A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, guys who have a little more value still, even though they're getting older. Devonta Adams, Cooper Kupp, I know they're 28, but they're still balling. They got time left. Tyreek Hill's 27. That's, I think, 7 or 8 guys right there. So I could even put Chris Godwin, I think, above Deebo, or maybe in the same tier, but I could argue he's top 10, I would say. It's just hard to rank him ahead of those guys. I don't want to say he's an injury prone guy, but he's dealt with injuries in every single season dating back to college as well. I
I
don't
think
want to
back
look
to
at
high
that
school,
as,
actually. I saw
yeah.
recently that he was even dealing with injuries in high school. So
Oh,
that's the
I
knock
mean,
for sure.
well, we got lucky this season. He's balling out. He's healthy. So it's really good to see. And I don't want to make the injury thing the deciding factor, but I can't rank him over guys like that. So probably top 10 for me.
All right. Troy, where are you at in this? And before we dive into it, I was kind of shocked, but Debo is still just 25 years old. I mean, he's a lot younger than I had realized. So that was kind of what intrigued me a little bit. But I want to get your take on this before I talk a bit.
Short answer is no. I mean, Victoria thinks summed it up perfectly. Like, I have all those guys pretty much ahead of him. Like, mainly DK, CeeDee Lamb, not in particular order. DK, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase. Definitely. Some mix of that is my top 5. And then between 5 and 10, there's like a lot. You can make a conversation then, but not my top 5.
So let me just throw some names out there. Tyreek Hill, he's still relatively young.
Oh,
He's 27 years
Tyreek
old.
Hill's definitely over.
Yeah.
So Tyreek Hill ahead. What about Devonta Adams? He's got some
Yes.
uncertainty with where he goes after this. See, and I think
That's
from
a
a
good
dynasty
argument.
standpoint, I think Deebo is a guy that I might put ahead of Devonta Adams. I think the ones that we talked about early on that Vic mentioned are the easy ones: Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb. I think those 5 are firmly ahead of Deebo. But I think after that, you could make a case for Deebo ahead of anybody after that. And I mean, there are strong arguments for Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and maybe even like Terry McLaurin, Cooper Kupp, Chris Godwin. But
See, Terry, I thought of, but he's just
He's a
everyone.
quarterback.
Yes, that's such a problem. And it's like they could draft one next year's draft class isn't, it's fine. But it's just we ranked Terry really high for redraft and dynasty this past year, even when he's not finished as better than top 20 wide receiver, I believe. But everyone was ranking him top 10, top 12, and I don't know. He's the talent's there, but like you said, quarterback couldn't do it.
I caught a lot of flack for what I thought was a pretty mild ranking. I had Terry McLaurin as my wide receiver 14 heading into this season, and I caught so much flack for that, saying that I was too low on him. But back to Deebo Samuel. I mean, this guy, when you're looking for, guys in dynasty, one of the biggest indicators that you look for is a strong rookie season. And Deebo was a beast as a rookie. And then his second year, he was really slowed down by injuries, but now he's back and performing like one of the best weapons in the NFL. So, I agree with both of you. I think the short answer here is no, but I think that there's a pretty strong argument to put him in that like 6 to 8 range. And if he keeps doing this next year, I think people are going to have to adjust and start moving him up. So I think we're all in agreement here that the answer is no, but I thought this was a thought-provoking question that we could start the day off with. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to an early episode of the Mailbag Show. Normally we come to you 7:30 p.m. on Wednesdays, but anything goes. It's Thanksgiving week. We're all trying to start our 4-day weekend a little bit early here. Before we get into this, I just want to remind everybody to subscribe to the YouTube page at youtube.com/footballguys, where you can see the short videos coming at you almost every single day of the week now. We've got the Audible, the Dynasty show, the Dynasty newsletter show, DFS Power Grid, so many great shows coming your way. We've got a few questions that we're going to start the show off with that were pre-submitted, and then we'll go to the chat and answer all of your questions live. Before we get into the next question, though, Troy, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know a little bit about our partners over at FanUp?
Of course. If you love fantasy football, then listen up. You have to join this NFL season's hottest and easiest daily contest. You can flex on the competition in FanUp's daily Flex Ball contest to win cash and the hottest brand prizes. It combines the best of redraft and best ball formats. There's no salary caps, drafts, waivers. FanUp allows you to pick a new team daily and stack your roster however you'd like. You can take on your friends every week, so sign up right now. Enter before Thursday night football, Sunday games, and Monday night football each week to win FanUp bonus prizes from Fanatics. Download the FanUp app now in the Apple stores or go to fanup.com. Sorry, .app. Just be fans.
Yes, sir. Now let's go ahead and jump right in. This question that we got in from Brian Fisher was a pretty lengthy email where he was kind of going through some of the just frustrations of drafting tight ends early this year because Travis Kelce, admittedly was a pretty solid pick if you got him in the late first, early second round, but Darren Waller has not lived up to his ADP. George Kittle spent a lot of the season on IR, which was kind of expected if you were paying attention to his previous injuries. TJ Hawkinson isn't coming anywhere near his ADP. So this question from Brian Fisher is, I typically wanted a top 5 tight end, but I am not thrilled with the return of value. Next year, are you fading the position or are you targeting particular players in the early to mid rounds? So Troy, start us off here. I mean, this seems to be the same question that we have every single year. What do we do with tight ends heading into 2022?
So normally my strategy is to wait on tight end. This year I decided, you know what, I'm going to go early tight end, and clearly it didn't work out. So I'm going to go back to my old strategy of fading the tight end position, especially if you're in a league where you only have to start one tight end. It does make more sense just to wait on the tight end position. Now, when you get to two tight end, lineups or tight end premium, I think you could change your strategy a bit. But for your standard, redraft league, we only start one tight end. It's probably smart just to wait on the position. It's kind of like there's like quarterbacks. Quarterbacks like normally a 1Z position in those kind of standard or basic leagues that you're in terms of your redraft. So that's another position you'd wait on. So I think going forward, I'm gonna wait on tight end stream until I find the right one, and then hope it pans out.
Now, are you making exceptions for guys like Travis Kelce or George Kittle? I mean, heading into next year, if Travis Kelce's still going late first, is that somebody you're comfortable taking, or do you think those wheels might fall off?
Travis Kelce, if he's going late first, early second, I'd probably pull the trigger. But it has to, the price has got to be right. The price got to be right for both him and George Kittle. But I'm not going to be actively trying to get them.
Yeah, I'm looking at so many of my rosters right now when I saw this question, where I took Darren Waller in the early to mid second round. That was one of my favorite targets in drafts this year. And just thinking about how I could have had Joe Mixon or somebody else instead of Darren Waller just makes my stomach turn. It's rough out here in these streets with tight ends. Victoria, what are you planning to do next year though?
I'm with y'all, and I was the same as Troy. Previously to this season, I was a wait on tight end gal, and then I was like, you know what? I took a shot on guys like TJ Hawkinson this year. I took a shot on Kyle Pitts in the league, and you kind of feel robbed by anyone not named Travis Kelce, as you already mentioned. And Waller, week one, all Waller managers were like, yes, he's balling out. He had a million targets.
19 targets.
19.
Unbelievable. And then it's been crazy that he's not even hit 12 or more points in many matchups this year. But I mean, I looked into the data for a minimum 8 games played the last 3 years. This year, there's been 11 tight ends that are averaging 10 or more points per game so far this season in PPR, compared to 8 last year at this time and 8 the year before. So there's the tight end landscape feels like it's improving slightly, especially with the emergence of guys that we talk about on the show quite a lot. Dan Arnold, Pat Freiermuth, even Zach Ertz last week balling out. That was pretty fun to see. But I think I'm going to go back to the old strategy. Like you said, Troy, I think especially in your typical redraft, it's okay to wait because you are missing out on such good value. And as we've seen, I don't know about you guys, but I'm struggling at running back in almost every single league. Like the running back landscape is getting tougher and tougher to hit on and getting kind of like a bell cow or someone is going to get volume. So I'd rather take those kind of guys in the first couple rounds than a tight end.
I'm with you. I think the one guy that I'm going to make an exception for next year, because I think that Travis Kelce, his ADP is still going to be sky high. And I just don't really like passing up on, elite running backs or Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill type for a tight end. So I've always, it's been tough for me to stomach Travis Kelce at that ADP. But George Kittle, I mean, this guy has definitely dealt with some injuries. He had it this year, he's had them last year. But the last year he was fully healthy, he tied with Travis Kelce as the overall tight end one. So you know what you're getting with George Kittle. His injuries are kind of baked into his ADP, and that's why you can get him in the 3rd and 4th round. But when he's on the field, I mean, he is as dominant as they come. I mean, he is just as good as Travis Kelce when he's out there playing. So that's a guy I'll probably still continue to target. But it seems like every year we fall for this trap in like rounds like 5 to 8, where a couple tight ends get moved up there, and we're like, these are the guys that are going to break out. And it's like those guys never hit. So I'm with you.
Jonnu Smith.
Oh my goodness. Jonnu Smith, Gerald Everett, TJ Hawkinson. So many guys this offseason that we thought were going to be the
Oh
next
my
big thing.
God.
And yeah, I mean, if you drafted Jonnu Smith, you were giving up what could have been a starting wide receiver or a starting running back or something like that. And at this point, you have cut Jonnu Smith, and you're probably streaming tight ends anyway. So yeah, I think the two exceptions going into next year are going to be Travis Kelce if he's got a reasonable ADP, George Kittle, and if I can't get one of those two guys, I'm pretty much waiting until round 14 before I'm even looking at tight ends, which was my strategy this year, plus Darren Waller. And, it didn't work out, but hey, I'll go back to the well next year. Next question we got comes in from Taco Kellen, and he's saying, which 3 keepers would you choose here? We're just going to assume that there is no giving up rounds, that you're just, flat keeping these guys. His options are Justin Herbert, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson, and Travis Kelce. What a great situation to be in. Vic, who are you not keeping out of this bunch?
Oh man, I think there's 3 guys on this list that are at the top of their skill positions for fantasy, and that's CMC, Justin Jefferson, and Travis Kelce. I love Justin Herbert, is one of my guys, but you can always get another great quarterback in your draft. I think I'm keeping CMC, Jefferson, and Kelce here. No brainer.
Yeah, that's my answer. That's a pretty easy one for me, Troy. We all in agreement on this one? All right. Now let's go to a much more difficult situation, because I have no idea what to make of this backfield. Adam Koffler, good friend of mine and a friend of the show, is asking us Dontrell, Hilliard, or Deonta Foreman for the rest of the season. I don't even know where to start here. Troy, help us make some sense of this. What are we supposed to do with this Tennessee backfield?
So Adrian Peterson just got cut. So what it seems like is that Dontrell Hilliard got a lot of work for 2 reasons. One, McNichols was out due to injury, as well as the Titans had to be playing from behind pretty much all game against the Houston Texans. So if it's a game script where, Hilliard is, if the Titans are going to be playing catch up, then obviously Hilliard's going to be on the field more, and he's going to be the pass catcher. Now, Freeman is going to go more into, just the 1 and 2 downs, right? So that's what his role. Give me the guy who catches passes, man. I've always been there. I've seen PPR leagues. They use Hilliard a lot. And I just feel like anytime they're behind, maybe in a close game, I think Hilliard now, again, I think he might be the guy. And it seemed like he's earned some touches. And again, I don't know McNichols' situation. I don't know when he's coming back or not, but give me the guy who's catching passes. So give me Hilliard.
Now, it looks like Jeremy McNichols is going to come back this week, and that's kind of what really muddies these waters up. I guess this question could have been Dontrell Hilliard, Deonta Foreman, or Jeremy McNichols.
Give me the guy who had, I don't know.
It's tough, man. This is a tough backfield. I mean, you go from having just the unanimous best player in fantasy football in this backfield to having 3 guys that might not have any value whatsoever. But Vic, I mean, are you interested in either of these guys? If so, who do you prefer?
Yeah, I'm with you guys that it's super tough. Hilliard looked like the better back last week, 63% of snaps, which is actually the highest percentage of snaps any running back has played since Henry went out with the injury. Foreman played 19% of snaps last week. I mean, I don't know. Hopefully nobody actually watched this game, but if you did, you saw what was going on there.
Awful.
And
So bad.
I think that the Titans are going to struggle the rest of the season. They were top of the AFC, favored to go to the, to the championship, to potentially the Super Bowl, and now AJ Brown was struggling. Tannehill threw 4 interceptions. I mean, Julio Jones doesn't look like he'll be back anytime soon. There's just not a lot of playmakers on this team. So, yes, with the running back landscape being just garbage right now, I think I'd take a shot on Hilliard, stash him. But other than that, I'm not excited about it. But I'd go for Hilliard here.
Yeah, it's weird. Based on the eye test, I think that Deonta Foreman looked better. I mean, he looks like a really good running back, but it was weird. He was named the starter, and then he didn't get any touches on the first 2 drives for the Titans. When he got his touches, he was efficient with them, and he looked good. There was some speculation out on Twitter that maybe he did something during the week and was getting like punished. But it's just such a weird situation because Deontay Foreman was brought off the streets 3 weeks ago. Dontrell Hilliard was brought off the streets last week. Neither of these guys have like any big contracts or draft capital or anything like that. They're just kind of there and they're both doing well. But I mean, if I had to pick one, I think I'd still lean towards Foreman a little bit because I think that Dontrell Hilliard is going to give up that passing down work to Jeremy McNichols when he returns. But for now, none of these guys are anything more than a bench stash. I mean, you've got to be absolutely desperate to plug any Tennessee running back into your lineup right now. But I think the best thing to do is just kind of stash all of these guys on a few different teams. Hope one of them hits and there's some clarity over the next couple of weeks. But right now, it is just an absolute muddled disaster. We got another one that is a bit weird this week. Another backfield. Our friend Ben Larson is asking us, who is the Saints running back to start if Kamara and Ingram both miss this week? Vic?
Oh, goodness. I hope they both miss because the Bills are playing them and we desperately need a win. So I don't think they will both miss, though. It sounds Tony Jones is the next man up, of course. They're saying Ingram's knee injury looks more to be day-to-day, more so just some swelling. So he can probably be good to go for Thursday's night game against the Bills. Tony Jones, though, he played 15% of snaps last week, hasn't played more than 35% of snaps all season. That doesn't necessarily scare me away for plugging him in because the Bills were ran all over last week by Jonathan Taylor.
5 touchdowns.
Oh my God, my soul is just. Remember when the Bills were Super Bowl contenders? LOL. Anyways, yeah, no, my soul isn't crushed or anything. Anyways, if the Bills don't get Tremaine Edmonds back at linebacker or Star back on the defensive line, it's going to be another game they struggle to stop the run. So this is a situation I'm monitoring because if Ingram's, somehow downgraded today or later today or anything like that, Tony Jones is going to be available in your normal redraft league. So definitely can pick him up. If you're desperate and just hoping for a guy that you need to throw in, Tony Jones is fine. But I think Ingram will be okay. What do you guys think?
And Tony Jones was a guy that got a lot of buzz in the preseason. For those that were paying attention in the preseason, I had Tony Jones on almost all of my leagues. And then he ended up getting injured and I dropped him. And I mean, what we've seen so far from Sean Payton is that if Kamara's down, he wants to have a workhorse. I mean, it's not like Ingram was out there splitting touches. Without Kamara, Ingram was just doing everything. He was catching passes. He was getting the early down work. So you wonder if that's just what Payton wants to do and if he'll just plug Tony Jones right in the same way. But there also could be a little bit of a weird split with Dwayne Washington, but I don't really know exactly how it's going to shake out. I like Tony Jones. I think that he's a really good player. And if both these guys miss, he'd be the guy that I'm interested in. Troy, is Dwayne Washington somebody that's on your radar or do you think it's going to be the Tony Jones show if that's what we get to?
I think it's going to be the Tony Jones. So it's just because pretty much you just said everything. In terms of preseason, Tony Jones did look good. Obviously, it's preseason, but in that opportunity, there were some flashes of, a little bit of quickness, a little bit of explosiveness. So I did like what I saw in the preseason. So I guess him. I don't think they both miss either. I think Ingram plays, but if he doesn't play, just give me Tony Jones.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's the guy to go with here. This next question comes in from Twitter from SlickTX713, and he's saying, who are your top running backs to stash other than Alexander Mattison and Tony Pollard? Those guys should not be available on any waiver wires. It is cuffing season. Make sure to get those backup running backs, stash them away because you can end up with, a bonus RB1 come fantasy playoffs. So, Troy, start us off here. Other than these two guys, which are, the elite tier, who are some other guys that you are targeting?
Amir Abdullah. The back Amir Abdullah, because we've seen him with CMC back. He has clearly, in terms of pass catching between him and Chuba, they clearly prefer Amir Abdullah in the role of just catching passes, and he's better at catching passes than Chuba Hubbard is. So for me, I think that he's a sneaky one. If CMC happens to get injured again, I think we see Amir Abdullah step into that role of catching passes and all that. So give me Amir Abdullah.
I like that one. That's a deep pull. Vic, who are some guys that you're thinking about?
I was going with the easy answers here, guys. We talked about over the last couple of weeks.
I want to be different.
I like it.
I respect that. I think we've talked about Darrell Williams, keeping him on your bench. I know, we talked about last week.
Michel,
what did we say?
I think, right? Is that what you said? Daryl Williams. That's right.
Daryl
I was thinking
Williams, yeah.
Daryl. I thought you said Daryl Henderson. Never mind. Daryl Williams, of course. Yes.
No, Daryl, obviously he filled in for CEH and looked great. We've said that on the show, and it was a bummer, but this happens every single time a starter's coming back. Daryl only had, I think, less than 4 fantasy points last week. He was relegated back to that smaller role, but when he filled in for CEH, if anything happens to CEH again, he'll be a great fill-in. And Khalil Herbert, I'm still stashing him as well because he filled in very well for Montgomery.
Yeah, and that's what blew my mind is Montgomery came back, he got the majority of the work, and then everybody just cut Khalil Herbert. And what I did was went out and picked up Khalil Herbert everywhere. I don't want to be, blowing all my fab if David Montgomery gets hurt again. We already saw that, I can't even say Matt Nagy, whoever the coach is going to be in Chicago is going to want to give the workload to Khalil Herbert if something were to happen to David Montgomery. So he's up there for me. Sony Michel is another one that, I'm starting to pick up everywhere I can. He's available still in a lot of leagues. And, his upside, if something were to happen to Daryl Henderson, is immense. And then another guy that is a little bit gross and you could probably get on just about every one of your leagues right now is Ronald Jones. And, he showed a little bit of burst last week. And realistically, he probably has zero value as long as Leonard Fournette is healthy. Leonard Fournette is the workhorse back here. But they don't have a ton of depth. Giovanni Bernard is going to continue playing his role as a pass catcher. Keyshawn Vaughn hasn't really done a thing this year. But if something were to happen to Leonard Fournette, I think Ronald Jones steps in as the, lead back that's going to see the majority of the carries on an explosive Tampa Bay offense. So it blows my mind that we're getting this close to the fantasy football playoffs and Rojo is still available out there. So, not somebody that you want to have on your team, but somebody that has a lot of upside that people just seem to be forgetting about for whatever reason.
Oh, Samaje Perine is another good one.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's a really good one. He was a guy that we saw step into Joe Mixon's role and do very well there. But the other thing I want to go back to is Herbert. I think Herbert belongs in this discussion with Alexander Mattison and Tony Pollard. I think that he has shown that he is an elite handcuff. Yeah. So he's a guy that you should be going out and getting for sure. All right, we got a few questions left. Then we will get to the chat. So drop those in. We have a little bit of a smaller audience than normal, going at a different time in the middle of the workday here. But drop your questions in the chat and we will get to them in just a little bit. Next question comes in from Peter Moracle, and he's saying, is rostering any Houston running back worth it at this point? So we're talking, David Johnson, Philip Lindsay. I don't even know who else is over there right now.
Philip Lindsay, he's got cut.
Philip Lindsay was cut. That's
yeah,
I completely forgot. So Troy, walk us through this. Is there anybody worth rostering here?
So last week, Rex Burke had a guy, I think 18 carries, and David Johnson got about 13. I think that they're going to use Rex Burkhead more, I think, in that traditional, 1 and 2 down, and they're going to use David Johnson as the pass catcher because David Johnson is elite in terms of pass catching. So I think, and they get the Jets this week. So I think either of them could possibly be flex worthy, Rex Burkhead or David Johnson. I'm expecting the Houston Texans to beat the Jets. So to me, game script actually might favor Rex Burkhead. It sounds gross, but again, he got 18 carries last week, against the Titans. So to me, that tells me, okay, against the Titans, if the game script is the way I think it's going to be, Houston's going to be up. They're going to be running the ball and most likely going to be running the ball more with Rex Burkhead. So I like both of them in terms, at least this week.
Remember when Mark Ingram saw 26 carries in week 1 and we thought that he was going to be some sort of workhorse? I mean, this Houston backfield has been tough to predict. I just saw, I was looking at their depth chart. I didn't even realize, when did they sign Royce Freeman? I didn't even know Royce Freeman was on that team now. That has just been a carousel of running backs since this offseason. Early in the offseason, it seemed like David Johnson was going to be the guy. And then they brought in Mark Ingram. And then they brought in Philip Lindsay. And now they've got Royce Freeman there. And they've got Rex Burkhead there. I mean, it's getting to be quite a headache. Victoria, did you agree with what Troy said? Or is there anybody else that you're a bit interested in?
Yeah, I completely agree, especially this week. Really good flex plays. I think the Jets are the worst at stopping the run. And their upcoming schedule for the Texans isn't terrible. Indy, Seattle, Jacksonville, the Chargers. So stashing one of these guys, I prefer David Johnson in a PPR league, but stashing them can't hurt right now. On the other side of the ball, though, I'd rather stash Ty Johnson with Michael Carter out. You never know if they could shut down Michael Carter, as their season is clearly going nowhere. And Ty Johnson is the more valuable back. He's the pass catcher. Tevin Coleman is Tevin Coleman. I don't think I need to expand upon that. any further. But honestly, if Ty Johnson's out there too, I've picked him up in many leagues this week.
Hey, I just got to say, Tevin Coleman, he went to high school right near where I grew up, and I watched this dude play in high school. And I mean, it's crazy when you see NFL talent playing at high school because those are just, they're 18 years old, but they are grown men at that point. It was like watching Derrick Henry playing against a bunch of toddlers. I mean, he just could not get brought down. He was a ton of fun in high school. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Ty Johnson is probably more valuable than anybody in Houston right now. We got 3 questions left, and this one comes to us from Twitter at I'm Here Now, and they are asking us, I have Kittle and Kelce in a 1-quarterback half PPR keeper league. After Kansas City's Week 12 bye, do I try to trade one, and if so, which one, and what would be a fair value? This is a good question, and I like these kind of open-ended questions where it's like, what players would you target for this player? So, Vic, start us off here. If you had to trade away Kittle or Kelce, who would you trade away and who would you be looking to acquire?
This is a tough question. Like you said, open-ended. I think I hate this. I think I would try to trade Kittle. Trade him on a high note, sell high, 20 points, 16 points, 13 points over the last 3 weeks PPR. I tend to trust that Kelce will remain involved. Him and Tyreek Hill are the 1-2 on the Chiefs. Not that George Kittle is not going to remain involved, but if I had to choose, I would be trading Kittle. Value-wise, depending on your needs, of course, we don't have that information in front of us, but I'd have to guess you may be hurting at running back. We all are pretty needy there, trying to get a good running back too for the stretch, maybe Montgomery or a wide receiver if you need somebody like Keenan Allen. He's been balling out though, so you might not be able to get him at that price, but I'd be willing to try, especially if you're eligible to be in the playoffs coming up here soon.
Troy, what do you have to add to this? Is there anybody that you'd be looking specifically to target?
I'd say maybe someone like Diggs. I would try maybe someone like Diggs. I would think, but either or, I feel like flip a coin in terms of which one you trade. Yeah. I think to me they're fairly equal enough. It's whoever your trading partner prefers, right? And then I think I would try to get someone like Diggs or maybe high-end RB2, low-end RB1 kind of guy. And it really depends on how they value the tight ends. Maybe there's missing one piece. Maybe they have a lot of depth. And that's another thing. Look at a team that might have like more depth, maybe at wide receiver or maybe at running back, and maybe they'd be more willing to trade one of those pieces. So that's what I would try to do. But yeah, flipping whichever one you want to flip is fine.
So there's a Reddit post that comes out every single Wednesday, and it's a trade value chart, and they adjust it, based off of just a ton of different variables, but comes out every single Wednesday morning. Came out this morning. I'm looking at the half PPR trade value chart right now, and these are some of the guys that are, saying that they're in comparable value in half PPR. So when you're looking at Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Jamar Chase, Mike Evans are the wide receivers that fall into that tier, which is kind of crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, Travis Kelce is definitely the number 1 tight end, but I don't know if I'd be giving up any of those guys for Travis Kelce. The running backs are DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley. I don't know if I'm giving up DeAndre Swift or Barkley for Kelce either.
Barkley, just because of what he's been dealing with, maybe, but definitely not Swift.
Now, let me throw you the guys that are in the same tier as George Kittle. When we're looking at wide receivers, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, AJ Brown, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin. I think those are a little bit more reasonable. I could see that trade happening. But, after Kelce, he's definitely had a couple good weeks, but he's also had a little bit of a slump earlier in the season. So that might be where they're saying the trade value is, but I can't realistically imagine that trade going down for Kelce in any leagues. The running backs that fall into Kittle's tier are Leonard Fournette, Cordero Patterson. And if I've got Kittle, I think I'd prefer Kittle over those running backs personally. So this time of year, it's definitely tough to make some trades. And when you're looking at tight ends, everybody values them differently. Some people really want that positional advantage. Some people don't. Honestly, I would just keep Kittle and Kelce here. There's no reason to help out another team that you might be facing in the playoffs. Playoffs are coming up soon. You give Kittle away to somebody, and then suddenly he's got a stronger team, and you got to face him in the playoffs. I might just stick as is, start one of them in my flex and start one of them in my tight end slot because they've both been pretty dominant so far this year. All right, we got 2 questions left, and this one comes from our friend Abe at DFS_docket. He's also asked us some questions in the chat, which we will get to in just a minute. And this question is, are we at the point of the season that top quarterbacks and tight ends are not locked into the lineup and possibly looking to stream quarterbacks with better matchups? So I assume this is, some of the people that we've talked about already that are coming up a little bit short. Russell Wilson, TJ Hawkinson, some of these guys that you really put a lot of value into that failed to live up to it. So, Troy, start us off here. I mean, if you put some ADP into a guy and they're underperforming, are you just looking to jump ship at this point?
I mean, yeah. I mean, unless you're one of the elites, like I'm not going to choose like a streamer over like a Josh Allen, for example, right? Even though like they just lost. But I'd play like Tua over a bunch of guys like, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, who started off the season hot, who's been struggling a bit. So yeah, I'd play people like Tua over him. Like that's, I think to me, that's the first person I think of. Tyrod just had a good game last week. So like, again, I feel like, there might be like 3 or 4 guys or maybe top 5 guys that you're just not ever taking out of your lineup. But everyone else to me is free game, right? So I would be more flexible. And then tight end position, right? Like I would Pat Freiermuth, Schultz, I would play them over guys like, like Noah Fant, for example, right? Like Noah Fant isn't like a locked in tight end that you have to play every single week, not to me. So yeah, at this point in time, you're just trying to win. Who cares where you drafted, right? Now it's about W. So, and I think sometimes the start your stud thing sometimes hurts you in this particular case, but do what you got to do just to win the matchup.
I'm with you. Vic?
Yeah, I'll say I've been messaging Dave and Troy back and forth wondering this season, man, like, is this just an outlier? Is it me? It's my first season as giving advice. Like, it's just been so unpredictable and infuriating at sometimes the last couple of weeks. I treated that where our process has been correct, and then we're just kind of getting crushed in these outcomes with players we think are smash starts. So just like be careful, I'd say. Over the last couple of weeks, we thought Kenny Gainwell was going to be a smash start. Jeff Wilson last week, these running back, Deontay Foreman last week, like these smash starts that we're thinking for these backup running backs just sometimes don't work out. So just be careful there if you're going to be playing one of these fill-ins over a guy you've already had on your bench. But I agree with you guys. I think like a good example from last week was Michael Pittman against Buffalo. On the outside, Buffalo's been one of the best, if not the best, defense against outside receivers. He only had 4 PPR points. I was okay sitting him in some, and I think I just played him in other leagues as well, just to have that balance. But that's kind of a guy that he's been smashing. He's been great for fantasy, but he's not in the elite tier of like, you're still starting Keenan Allen no matter what, those kind of guys. Mm-hmm. I agree with you guys there.
Yeah, I think you guys summed up everything. So let's get to the last question now, and then we'll jump into the chat. And this question is from our friend Jimbo Swenson, and he's saying, what is your favorite Thanksgiving dish? Thanksgiving is tomorrow. We are recording this on Wednesday afternoon. So start us off, Troy. What is it that you look most forward to on Thanksgiving?
So this is also, before I get started, Matthew Judon, he need to be either suspended or fined for his take on this dish. Macaroni and cheese is my favorite. Baked macaroni and cheese, not like Kraft macaroni and cheese. The nice baked macaroni and cheese. We put real cheeses and seasoning in it. Like, that's my favorite. I know some families don't have mac and cheese for the Thanksgiving. I always grew up with it. Mac and cheese is elite. And turkey's overrated. I will say that. I don't care who gets mad. Turkey's definitely overrated. I'd much rather I focus on the size more than the turkey, but mac and cheese is the only correct answer.
I like it. Vic, what do you get most excited about on Thanksgiving?
Similar answer. My grandma, my Mima, makes a potato cheese bake, so it's similar, just like crunchy. Forget what she puts on top, but the same type of thing. Just amazing. Chef's
I think
kiss.
we're gonna have a theme here. I think we all just like cheese. My mom makes this broccoli cheese casserole with like the crispy onions on top, and that is definitely my favorite dish on Thanksgiving. That being said, with my wife being a baker and owning a pie shop, I am legally obligated to say that pie is, of course, my favorite Thanksgiving dish. Before we hit the chat, Troy, why don't you go ahead, tell everybody why they need to sign up for the Footballguys daily email update?
Absolutely. So, everybody, you need to sign up for the Footballguys daily email update if you aren't already. Every day, Joe Bryan will bring you the latest football guys, news, transactions, rumors, all the articles and shows from Football Guys. So make sure you sign up today.
Yes, absolutely do that if you haven't already. Just literally everything you need. You don't even need to watch the show. Just read Joe Bryan's daily email update, and you've got all the information you need.
No,
every
you
single
need
day.
to still watch our
No,
show, Dave.
definitely watch the
Definitely
show.
listen and watch the show. God damn, Dave.
All right, here we got from Joey Wright, wishing us a happy Thanksgiving to all three of us. Joey, hope you have a great Thanksgiving as well. Abe is in the chat saying, I think Jonathan Taylor just scored another touchdown. Very funny, Abe. But let's go get to one of Abe's questions here that he's asking us. Ty Johnson or Michael Gallup? This is a good question. We talked about how Ty Johnson could step up with Michael Carter out, but Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are both looking pretty unlikely for this week as well. So, Troy, start us off. Who are you taking out of these two?
Gallup. And I'll say that CD, there have been reports like he might pass concussion protocol by tomorrow, so we'll see. It's iffy, but Gallup's still been really involved regardless. So give me Gallup.
Vic?
I think I'd go the same. I did just get a notification that Dak Prescott said CeeDee Lamb, quote, was great today, did everything in practice. I don't think we have any limitations going into the game with him.
Wow.
So that doesn't mean he's going to pass concussion protocol, but it's sounding likely. So
that's the thing with concussions. They can be fickle too, where guys can feel fine and then, a symptom pops up out of nowhere. So, we probably won't get clarity on that until Saturday or Sunday.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. It's Thanksgiving.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like Saturday.
So we'll see. But I think if Amari and CeeDee are both out, you got to go Michael Gallup here. I mean, I'm one of the biggest Michael Gallup fans out there. I've said this on record many times. I think that he would be the wide receiver one on like 8 to 10 different teams in the NFL right now. I think you plug him into the Jets, the Bears, so many different teams out there. I think Michael Gallup has the talent to be a wide receiver one. So I'm happy that he can possibly get this opportunity on a huge stage on Thanksgiving on a big game. So I'd go Michael Gallup here. But if CeeDee Lamb comes back, I think it'd probably lean towards Ty Johnson. So thanks for giving us that little update there, Vic. We got another question coming in from YouTube. Mickey Brock 80 saying, PPR, I need an RB2 and flex help. Ramondre Stevenson, Deonta Foreman, or Hilliard at running back, and then Michael Gallup, Brandon Ayuk, or Hunter Renfrow for flex. Your input is greatly appreciated, and enjoy your turkey day. Thank you very much, Mickey Brock. Troy, start us off here. Who are you going with at running back and flex out of these groups?
Stevenson. And then the second one is very dependent on Lamb. If Lamb is in the lineup, I think Ayuk. If he's not in the lineup, Gallup.
I agree with that.
I'd probably say the same. Renfrow and Ayuk to me are fairly close, but I think the way Ayuk's been playing, he's been getting targeted the last 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. Renfrow's a safe flex. I mean, last week was kind of a downer, but other than last week, he's been pretty consistent in that 10 to 14 point range for PPR. I'm with you, Troy. Stevenson and then Gallup if Lamb sits, and Ayuk if not.
That's what I'd be going with. And there's kind of this narrative going around right now that Ayuk is stepping up as the team's wide receiver one again because of the usage last week. Because last week was kind of bizarre. Deebo Samuel saw his season high in carries and his season low in targets. I don't know if that's a changing of guard happening. I think that had a lot more to do with Elijah Mitchell being out, and they wanted to give Deebo Samuel. I mean, this is crazy to say because he is a wide receiver, but Deebo Samuel is legitimately the best running back on that team. Every time he touches the ball, he's picking up like 8 to 12 yards. Like he doesn't go down. He is a phenomenal running back. So I think that his, what we saw last week with Ayuk seeing targets and Deebo not seeing targets, I think that had a lot more to do with Elijah Mitchell's injury than anything else. Here's a question we got coming in simply from F on YouTube. And F is asking us thoughts on Brandon Cooks' rest of season. This man got off to a blistering start this year. Everybody thought they stumbled across, a 10th round wide receiver one. Been a little bit quiet since. So, Troy, how are you feeling about Brandon Cooks if you got him on your team?
I'm still starting him. I think he's fine. I think he's going to have he's going to have his up and down weeks. I don't think he's a lock in your lineup anymore, unfortunately, but I think there are going to be games where he's going to be highly targeted and there are going to be games where he disappoints you. But now for the rest of the season, I say he's a low end. You think wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 2 flex play? I think that's probably what he is for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's averaging 8.7 targets per game, which is, phenomenal to see. I feel like anybody seeing, it doesn't matter what offense you're on, it doesn't matter what quarterback you have. If you're seeing 8.7 targets per game, you're getting plugged into a fantasy lineup every single week. And he's a little bit boomer bust, but I feel like you got to just ride it out at this point. Vic, is he somebody you're thinking about benching, or are you just gonna stick with him?
No, I mean, in most leagues, I'm willing to flex him, especially a lot of people, you've got 2 flex spots in your redraft leagues. I'm still flexing him. And last week was just a bummer letdown. You thought it was a smash spot, but they just, I don't know how or why, but they manhandled the Titans. So you got to kind of throw those ones out the window.
Yeah. Makes you wonder how well the Titans can do, though, if they make the playoffs. Because when they play good teams, they play great football. And then when they play the Jets and Houston, they just play down to the competition. It is mind-numbing trying to figure out what's going on with that Tennessee team. We got another question here, though, from Abe. Appreciate you sending those questions in, Abe. And Abe is asking us, are you willing to start Andy Dalton against the dumpster fire of Detroit? I see Troy nodding. I
absolutely.
See Vic nodding. Too. He looked great last week.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unreal. Yeah, definitely.
Kind of crazy, but I mean, he looked really good. Mooney had his big touchdown there. Marquise Goodwin had his big touchdown.
That was awesome. I saw it. I was telling my husband, do you know who that is? That's Marquise Goodwin, the Olympian.
I was screaming that he should get down. I mean, it was a weird situation because the Bears were down and you want to put the points on the board, but I just had a bad feeling that he took that touchdown and gave him the ball with that much time left. I mean, it seems like that's like every Ravens game every single week, even without Lamar Jackson. It just comes down to them having like a minute and a half left to get down the field and score, and they just do it almost every single week. And we saw it again this week. So yeah, I'm starting Dalton here. I mean, the team was passing a lot more when they had Dalton. It's like when Justin Fields was under center, they were purposely, I don't want to say dumbing down the playbook, but they were making the playbook very run heavy. It was just run, and then a deep shot down the field, and that was pretty much it. With Dalton, he seems much more apt to, taking those short and intermediate throws, and it seems like those are the play calls that they're giving him. So up against Detroit, it wouldn't surprise me if he throws the ball 35, 40 times this Thursday and has himself a decent outing. I'm not starting him as a QB1, but in 2 quarterback leagues, absolutely Dalton deserves a spot. All right, here we got another question, and I tweeted this yesterday. I have no idea who to start. I'm benching both of these guys, actually, but Big BS on YouTube is asking us, Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson in half PPR. Oof.
Oh, God. Flip a coin. I'll go Harris, but
I'm sticking with Harris, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Harris, too, but I was just looking at these guys, in their consensus rankings, and they were 1 spot apart yesterday. I mean, they're just right next to each other. I'm leaning towards Harris too, but really what it's going to come down to, who's going to find the end zone? And that is nearly impossible to predict. It looks like these guys are going to be splitting early down work. Brandon Bolden is going to stay that pass catcher. This is one frustrating backfield. So I'm benching both of these guys this week. I realize not every team has that luxury. But this is a really, really tough one to go with. I'd lean Harris, but I wouldn't fault anybody for starting Stevenson over him at this point. All right, next question comes in from Bougie on YouTube, and Bougie is asking us, Bears or Eagles for a Week 12 defensive streamer? So the Bears obviously playing against the Lions and the Eagles. Anyone know off the top of their head who the Eagles play?
Giants,
that's right.
Bears.
Yeah. Bears defense looked good
I'm
last
going
week.
Eagles, to be honest with you.
Really?
I think I have the Bears in some spots, but the Giants, they couldn't even move the ball against Tampa Bay. And it's a divisional matchup, probably going to be a little bit lower scoring, a little bit more of a ground and pound potentially. But they're back-to-back in my rankings, Bears and Eagles. But Eagles have the Jets next week, worth noting if you don't feeling lazy, you don't want to worry about the.
That's a good one, Vic. That's a good one.
A nice ball.
Yeah, I did that because I don't want to scout try to get the waiver wire defense again next week. I'm just gonna take the Eagles.
What happened? It looked like the Titans were like the pickup. I was so happy a few weeks ago, picked up the Titans everywhere, and I was like, I gotta set them and forget them defense for the rest of the year, and then put up zero points against Houston. I mean, it's just It's crazy. I don't get it. So I'm struggling with defenses right now. I'd probably lean the Bears slightly.
Akeem Hicks was ruled out. I don't know
Yeah.
if that
Max out for the
changes your mind,
season, but Robert Quinn, he's been stepping up and playing pretty well, which is
yeah.
shocking to see. Roquan, I mean, I've been saying this since last offseason, and people don't agree with me, but I think he's, top 3 linebacker in the league. That dude is just an absolute beast. So they still have some playmakers out there. Eddie Jackson's regressed a little bit, but there's still a solid fantasy defense. I'd lean the Bears here, but I do like what you pointed out about them having a nice matchup next week too. So maybe picking up the Eagles and just riding them for 2 weeks isn't a terrible idea. I like that pull, Vic. Got another question here from Abe, and he's saying, pick a side of this trade, Ramondre Stevenson and Michael Gallup for Elijah Moore. I think if this is dynasty, everyone's probably leaning towards Moore pretty heavily. So let's imagine this is a redraft trade. Vic, would you prefer Stevenson and Gallup or Elijah Moore?
I think I'd still go Elijah Moore, but the only scary part is that Zach Wilson is back this week, and what the heck is he going to look like with Wilson back in the lineup since, I think, 4 weeks ago it's been. So I'm a little bit scared, but I'm still taking Moore. He's been, I think, the wide receiver 7 overall over the last couple of weeks, just on fire.
Wide receiver 1 over the last 4 weeks.
1?
Over the last 4,
Elijah Moore over the last 4 weeks is the overall wide receiver 1.
That's wild. Yeah.
But unfortunately, he might have Zach Wilson coming back this week with
That's
Mike
okay.
White and Joe Flacco both being on the COVID reserve list.
That's okay, because you know what? My husband and I are playing against each other this week. He picked up Elijah Moore. I said he thinks he's a genius, but he doesn't know nothing.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, Elijah Moore he's looked fantastic these last few weeks, but he just couldn't get it done with Zach Wilson. So that's kind of frustrating. Just going off on a tangent here. When have you ever seen the 2nd overall pick suddenly become the QB3 on his own team? But like, it is just crazy. The only reason Zach Wilson's starting this week, like they were trying to play it off as an injury, but then Flacco and Mike White both get hit on the COVID reserve list, and they're like, oh, well, we'll just put Zach Wilson back in there. That is,
yeah,
that's gonna be tough for Jets fans.
Sorry, Abe.
Sorry, yep. And Abe, our friend, is a Jets fan. I'm going to go with Elijah Moore here too, just because we've seen him have, crazy upside. And I don't think that Gallup or Stevenson are really ever going to have that much potential. So I'd take the better player here, which is Moore. Thanks, Bix.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of iffy, but I guess I'll go Moore just for consensus.
Yeah, it's close. It's a close one for sure.
If you need a win this week, I'm going the Gallup side. I'm hoping Gallup could pull it out for you, but
that's a good point. Davis Peng is asking us on YouTube, are you okay with Fields sitting for the rest of the season? I'll take this one, being the Bears fan.
I'll let you answer this one.
Yeah.
I said this yesterday out on Twitter. It wouldn't bother me one bit if they sit Fields for the rest of the season. I mean, this is going to end up being a pretty weird situation. So we're going to imagine that, Matt Nagy gets fired after this game, which people are reporting, but Matt Nagy is denying. So it's a weird situation right now.
Of course he's
this
gonna
is just
deny it.
Yeah.
It's just indicative that this
embarrassed.
team is broken. Yeah, I mean, we should all be embarrassed, but it's just awful to see. But realistically, the guy that would step up as the interim head coach would probably be Bill Lazor, and then they'll probably hire a new head coach in the offseason. I just don't like the idea of Justin Fields playing under 4 different head coaches in his first 14 NFL starts. So I'm kind of at the point now, this is a lost season. We've seen that Justin Fields is, a playmaker, an athlete, all the things that we thought he was. Let him sit for the rest of the year. Let him focus on the offseason, developing chemistry with Darnell Mooney and whatever free agent wide receiver they bring in. But yeah, at this point, I'm totally okay sitting him for the rest of the year.
Nothing
you guys have any input on this?
No, I
I
agree.
agree with you.
All right. We got Davis Peng asking us, is Amari Cooper a wide receiver 3/wide receiver 4 at this point? What is this question?
No.
Garbage.
Is a high-end wide receiver 2. Get
Get
out
out
of
of
here,
here.
Davis.
No.
All right. We got a question from Brett Burton. I'm skipping right over that one, Davis. I'm sorry, man. And for the record, Davis is a friend of ours. We're not just out here. Thanks for tuning in, Davis. Brett Burton is asking us, I'm 9-2 in first place and ahead on points by over 150. Very nice. I'm hanging on to Derrick Henry in hopes of his return in case I make it to the championship. Eckler and Jacobs are my running backs filling in until then. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, Eckler. What more do we have
Yeah,
to say?
exactly. You're good, bro. You just keep winning.
Yeah,
I think
keep
it's
winning. I like
fine.
it.
Yeah. I just would worry and say, like, if you get to the championship and for some reason Henry's gonna play, that's such a tough decision that you're gonna have to make.
No, it ain't tough for me. He's playing.
Yeah, you just put him right back in. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, if they're not going to put him in with any limitations. If he's healthy,
Yeah,
if
that's
he's
true.
active, he's going to be,
Mhm.
the Derrick Henry that we know. All right, we got a question here from Niner49 saying, trying to pick two between Miles Sanders, Myles Gaskin, and Kareem Hunt. I'm worried about Hunt's status and it being a Sunday night game. So for those that are unaware, Kareem Hunt was activated off of IR, which opens up his 21-day window where he can practice. They can evaluate him for the next 21 days and make a decision whether he is going to be active or not. So right now, we don't have a lot of, just an idea of what his activity is going to be this weekend. I think that if they somehow come out and say that he is going to be good to go, I think Kareem Hunt is, a tier above Sanders and Gaskin. I'm probably putting Gaskin slightly above Sanders. So my answer here would be Hunt and Gaskin. What do you guys think?
I say that by Sunday, if you don't know Hunt's status before the games, then just play Sanders and Gaskin. Otherwise, if like Sunday morning we find out Hunt's gonna play, then Hunt and Gaskin.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that's it for me. And that is it for the chat question. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Footballguys Mailbag Show. You can find us every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Just switching it up a little bit with this being Thanksgiving week. Want to remind everybody to subscribe to the YouTube page at youtube.com/footballguys if you haven't already. I'm Dave Kluge. I'm here with Victoria Geary and Troy King, and we will see you again next week.